What is 0% financing? Everyone thinks it's free, but that's just not the case. And what about buy now, pay later? Hi, I'm Elizabeth Naumovski, host of Finance is Personal. Now, I've heard so many people tell me that they just bought a car or furniture because it was 0% financing. It's free. But you have to dig a little deeper to realize that the financing has been included in the pricing. And now, have you noticed there's a new type of debt that has surfaced in Canada? It's so new that there really isn't a standard name for this new installment loan, but we refer to it as buy now, pay later. Today, I'm joined by Jennifer Kwan, a licensed insolvency trustee, and she manages the Mississauga office at Hoyes, Michaelos and Associates. Jennifer completed her undergrad in law school in Montreal, and then quickly realized that it really wasn't her calling to help big corporations make even more money, and obtained her license to become a trustee. Jennifer, welcome, and thank you so much for being here. I really am excited about picking your brain.
I'm glad to be here, Liz. Thanks for having me.
So let's begin. 0% financing. So many people purchased a home and then went and bought a car, 0%. They bought their furniture, 0%. They bought all their appliances, 0%. At some point, it all ends up coming to fruition, but everyone keeps thinking that 0% is free. But that term is so misguided that it's not really what it seems to be or what people think it is. So can you just please provide some clarity as to what 0% financing actually is?
Absolutely. So 0% financing is actually a form of marketing tactic to attract buyers for consumer goods, especially when it's a big ticket item that you can't purchase all at once. So you need some kind of assistance through financing. So you'll see this a lot in automobile industry. And as you mentioned, household furniture and appliances, electronics. But I don't know if you noticed, Liz, lately, even credit cards are offering 0% balance transfers. So that's been happening too. So obviously the scheme definitely works. A 0% finance deal is also known as an interest-free form of personal finance where you're not charged interest on the amount you're borrowing from a financial institution, either a bank or in-house financing or other lenders. In other words, the lender will provide you with funds needed, but they won't charge you interest on the amount borrowed. So this allows you to be like an all cash buyer. And you'll be paying the difference being like the biggest difference being that you'll be paying it throughout several installment payments. Sounds good so far, right? So let's just talk about auto financing, which I mentioned. So you'll notice that a lot of car dealerships have these annual sales of 0% financing. And like, why wouldn't you want to drive a new car today and pay for it interest free over a period of time? I mean, I would. So it does seem too good to be true, right? So it does turn out that in many cases, choosing the 0% financing option often comes with a lot of fine prints and hidden traps. So you can end up actually paying more for your purchase than it would have been with a standard loan.
Okay, so let's actually, do a deep dive. Explain how the financing is embedded in the price, because a lot of people, I love to negotiate. Whatever it is that I buy, it has to be a negotiation, right?
Same.
If they give me a price, that price doesn't really exist. I need to negotiate.
It's the thrill of it.
So what's the catch here?
Yep. So there's several catches, but we're going to focus on two major ones. First, I want to preface everything by saying that just because you're getting a 0% finance doesn't actually mean you're getting a better deal. So number one, it's not truly 0% financing because the consumers always pay for financing costs in a very indirect manner. So when I talk about indirect manner, I'm talking about processing fees that are hidden or documentation fees. And oftentimes they'll even require a minimum cash down payment. And sometimes even a higher price tag, right, than an item that you would have paid with traditional interest rates. So just an example, a couple of years back when my husband and I got married, we purchased a couch at a big retail furniture store for $1,500. So of course, we don't have a lot of money to start out with. So we're very excited with the 0% financing, but they made us pay the $90 processing fee plus taxes up front. So it's not really no payment up front. And number two, if you don't pay at the end of the term, whether it be 12 months of 0% financing or 24 months, whatever the contract says, the interest rate becomes huge. So it's like 22% or like a credit card.
Right,
And,
right.
Yeah, and that's a lot.
It's huge. And
Mhm.
it is huge. Then you're dealing with the compounded interest. But I think with the 0% financing, you actually don't have any room to negotiate either, do you?
Exactly. So you actually, Liz, you love negotiating, as you said, but you don't really have any like, you can't get a better bargain than that, right? You have no room for wiggle room, negotiation, nothing like that. And many of these agreements stipulate that they will charge you interest on the full price of the goods, backdated to the original purchase date if you don't pay the debt on time. So if it's not clear by the end of your term of 0% financing period, you're pretty much looking at like paying 22% on the original purchase price. And this definitely suggests that credit institutions actually generate more income if a customer defaults, right? So
Right.
that's the catch.
So the catch too is, I mean, we have to be responsible and we have to read the fine print on every
That's
document that
right.
we're signing.
But who does that, right?
I do.
Oh, look at you. You're one of the rare ones. But yeah, I mean, yes, we should be reading the fine prints and understanding what we're actually getting into.
Okay, so now I want to talk about something that's really new now. Everyone's been at home during COVID, self-isolating,
Mhm.
and a lot of people have been impulse shopping because you can't go into the store because we've been locked down. And I was noticing I was purchasing some stuff at one of our big department stores, and when I went to the checkout, I saw, credit card, and then there was this buy now, pay later thing. And I thought, well, this is new. And I really want to learn about this because a lot of these things may sound that they're wonderful, but there's so much behind them that actually, a lot of people don't investigate it. It's like, oh, I have the option of using this new system. So I want to talk about and learn more about this new type of debt because it is a new type of debt and it is called buy now, pay later. And they are loans. And I'd love for you to explain the concept, please.
Absolutely. So while this type of installment payment option seem to have surfaced overnight, it's actually been around for some time. And the concept of this buy now, pay later is no different from what we know as a layaway program that we all know of already, with the biggest difference being that you get the item right away and you finish off paying for it. So this buy now, pay later loan concentrates on retailers that sell clothing, jewelry, cosmetics, and recently furniture stores, like you mentioned. So it really actually emerged in Canada a couple of years ago. So, but I've seen it appear more and more, especially during COVID. So when you browse the thousands of online retailers as you normally do at checkout, you'll see the regular MasterCard, Amex, PayPal, and now you'll suddenly see this buy now, pay later company that shows up as a form of payment.
So now you have the option of paying for your product interest-free in 4 installments.
Yeah.
What if I can't pay within my 4 installments?
So that's where it gets really bad, right? If you can't pay, there's always fees that are associated with it. We can get into more details about that, but the whole point of a buy now, pay later method is you have to pay 25% upfront, and every 2 weeks they take automatic withdrawals of the other 25% and so on until the 4 equal payments are paid. Now, if you default on this, there's a bunch of fees that we can get into that they will start charging.
So I know that there are a lot of new apps that have come out. Are they all very similar? Are they different? Are some better or worse?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, I've reviewed a couple of agreements, but the biggest ones that you've probably heard of are Afterpay, Sezzle, and PayBright. So how it actually works is you simply link the app to a payment method of your choice. So usually it's your bank debit card or your credit card. And the purchaser will pay installments every 2 weeks, as mentioned. And the buy now, pay later company will automatically withdraw that amount from your debit or credit card on your payment due dates.
So who's the target? Who's the target market for this?
I would say now in short form, it's everyone. Well, everyone who are online shoppers. So people who are tech savvy or who actually know how to use the internet to make online purchases. I guess the biggest targets would be the younger population, including millennials and Generation Z shoppers. And studies actually show that consumers continue to shift online shopping across all categories, right? Especially with the pandemic. And many consumers actually say that they're planning to shift completely online even after COVID-19, ceases. And Statistics Canada data actually show that with the exception of food and beverage subsector increases in store sales, e-commerce like exploded. It surged 107% for Canadians, according to a study conducted last year. So can you imagine what the number is this year?
Well, that's just it, but I'm not quite sure that a lot of people are going to be, glued to their computer to buy things online because as we've seen, as soon as the lockdown has opened up, there are lineups for people to go out and go shopping, right?
That's true.
So,
That's true.
so I'm really interested to see what happens within the next year or so, because there's so many different surveys out there, and they're saying people are going to be doing more online shopping, and I totally get it. I was listening to the radio, and they said that people are on their device, whether it's their computer, their laptop, their cell phone, their screen 19 hours a day. And so
Oh my God.
as soon as we wake up, we're on our phone, we do whatever we do, and then we sleep for 5 hours, and then we're back on, whether it's impulse shopping or impulse trading or whatever it is.
That's right. Mhm.
But
I'm guilty of it.
I think a lot of people are actually. But
Yeah.
Why would a purchaser use one of these buy now, pay later loans instead of just putting it on their credit card?
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, Liz, because I would say the biggest reason would be consumers who do not have a credit card. And especially younger people, they don't have an established credit history, so they're not usually like approved for a credit card. 57% of young buyers don't have credit cards, which is a surprising number. And it's also very easy to obtain. So there are no long application forms to fill out. It's really quick approval and you get your purchase immediately. So those are why you would use this buy now, pay later kind of loan.
Okay, so you've got these apps. How do they make money?
Yeah, there are three ways they actually make money. And number one would be merchant fees, right? The retailers or these online stores would pay a percentage to these buy now, pay later companies. And the buy now, pay later company charges the retailer around 6%, give or take, on the purchase price. So they make money, number one, through that.
Right.
Number two would be late fees, as we discussed earlier, Liz. Every provider is different, but most of them do charge it like a small fee if you don't make an installment on time. For example, Sezzle, one of the apps, they charge you $5 to reschedule a payment, which happens. And if you have a failed payment, so you didn't have enough money in your credit card or your debit card, then they charge you $10. So the companies make a huge amount of money from these late fees. Actually, Doug Hoy is one of the co-founders of Hoy's Michaels and Associates, reviewed the annual report for the year ended June 30th of last year for Afterpay, one of the biggest companies. And it shows that they made $69 million in late fees, which accounts for 13% of their total income, which is huge.
Wow. And you know what the problem too is? A lot of people, if you have a credit card, a lot of people don't look at their credit card statements. And if they've canceled something, they don't check and see whether, the monthly installments or the monthly payments that they have gone up in price, or if they've canceled something and they're still being charged for it. And I think, to your point, I think it's the same thing with bank statements as well. People are just not paying attention because if they knew, they would be a little bit more diligent.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, it takes discipline and kind of a routine to, periodically check your statements, and I do recommend it. And going back to just one of the reasons or ways they make money, Liz, the third one is the most concerning one to me, and it's the consumer data. And it's really problematic because if you read the agreements and the fine prints that you're agreeing to when you actually sign up for these apps, you're agreeing and consenting to be contacted by text messages, pre-recorded messages, emails, calls, regarding all this marketing communication and more. So most people do not care about their privacy, surprisingly, as much as they should, but this is considered psychological bombardment. And your information is being sold to marketing companies and you're consenting to this. So this is problematic to me, not to everyone, but to me it is.
It is to me as well, because we are bombarded with so many fraudulent emails and texts now as well. And it's really hard for people to be able to understand which one is a real text and which one is fraudulent, which one's phishing.
Exactly.
And, people have forgotten that when you download any apps and they're free, well, they're actually taking all of your personal information. So it's not free. You're actually giving them so much of yourself. And you're right. I think we really have to rethink when we download different apps on our cell phones.
I agree.
And, you know me, I'm all about the financial literacy aspect of it, right? And removing debt completely, because I hate debt. And it's something that I tell people all the time, remove your debt. Will all these new apps, will they be helpful to impulse shoppers, or will it dig them deeper into debt?
Oh, absolutely. I can totally relate to this impulse purchase culture, like maybe in the past, but not anymore. I'm a licensed insolvency trustee now. But essentially, yeah, you do end up buying a lot more things that you don't need and you can't afford, right? So I read this article recently, and the recent study shows that nearly half of the consumers said that they spend anywhere between 10 to 40% more than they would use like when they use the buy now, pay later apps versus when they would use a traditional credit card. Right. So the consumers are buying a lot more want items rather than the need items. So this can get you into serious trouble.
And I've been telling everybody lately, especially during COVID, right? We need to make frugality fashionable, and we need to start thinking about living a needs versus a wants life. Yes. And forget about FOMO, the fear of missing out, and YOLO, you only live once, right? I mean, we really have to focus on our debt right now.
Absolutely.
So I was reading this article, and they were talking about the UK has actually banned these pay now, pay later apps. But Canada hasn't done anything as of yet. Do you know anything further about this?
Yeah, so I did a bit of reading on this actually. So in the UK, the Treasury actually announced plans to put the buy now, pay later method of debt under strict regulations under the Financial Conduct Authority. So the Treasury actually fears that consumers will end up with high levels of debt, especially during the pandemic, and rightfully so. Yeah. There's significant potential for consumer harm, and it's way too easy for consumers to buy more than they could afford and rack up high amounts of debt and not ever be able to pay these back. So some of these regulatory requirements lists are pretty, I'll give you a couple of examples. So one is implementing proper affordability check before lending, which is not being done right now, and ensuring that the customers are treated fairly if they're struggling to repay the loans. So the Treasury saw the rise in popularity in the UK with these buy now, pay later apps, and it quadrupled in 2020, and which contributed to an explosion on online shopping. So they had to act. And so far, I haven't heard anything about Canada doing anything, but I'm sure it's to follow one day.
Yeah, I'm sure. Now, with all this said and done, what are the benefits? Are there any benefits to these buy now, pay later apps?
I mean, not much. I mean, I can understand why some people would find reasons like that they would prefer using these types of apps, but I don't see these reasons being good enough to outweigh the dangers of choosing this method. I mean, let's remember one thing. This type of loan doesn't earn you points like a credit card does, or it doesn't improve your credit score like a credit card does. And I'm not advocating for a credit card, but I'm just saying on that point, actually on the point of the credit score, a good thing would be that if you actually miss a payment, unlike a credit card, they won't report it to your credit bureau. So your credit score won't be impacted by a missed payment, right? So I guess that's good. And I guess another one that I would say is a good or benefit would be the upfront fees are kind of less. So the initial buying shock is less. I don't know if that's actually a benefit, but it's an advantage.
Okay, well, you've talked about the benefits. What are harms and disadvantages that we should look out for?
Right. I mean, the most important message I want to get across is these are still debt. Okay. You're incurring debt. And if you can't pay it back, it's a big concern, right? Financing every little purchase like clothing, makeup, jewelry may potentially lead to an insurmountable amount of debt. So it's no different from a credit card or any other loans.
So, final words. I always like to ask my guests for practical advice to the viewers.
So, like any other debts, just pay on time. Okay. If you pay on time, you will avoid all these negative disadvantages associated with this type of method of loan or debt. So just pay on time.
And I always say, if you can't afford it, don't buy it.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for your time, Jennifer. I really enjoyed our talk today.
Same. Thank you so much, Liz.
Remember, when a company says it's 0% financing, nothing is free or zero. The cost is always included in the retail price. And the buy now, pay later concept can end up costing you extra if you don't pay within your 4 installments. You may be charged late fees, interest, or both. And don't forget how debilitating compound interest payments can be. Make sure you always read the fine print before you engage in any purchase agreement. This is where all of the important information regarding missed payments, interest charges, and fees are located. Now, when I bought my car, I read the fine print and I actually found typos. The dealership told me that no one reads the document. I'm telling you to read it. Take the extra time because it will save you in the long run. If you found this episode of Finances Personal helpful, please click like. Don't forget to read the disclaimer in my YouTube description. It's the fine print and it's important. And please look out for my next episode and remember to subscribe to my YouTube channel. It'll automatically give you video alerts. And please follow me on Twitter @Naumovski. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.